Good Monday night, I should say. I hope and trust everybody had an enjoyable weekend. We had some rain. A lot of football went on this weekend, as I'm sure it is going on tonight. A couple things I'd like to do. This is Granny's Old Hand coming to you on YouTube. This is our first run on YouTube. Some people I'd like to thank, all of you that have poured into me this past week with your expressions of love, your comments on Facebook, your comments on YouTube. I have to share this before we start reading. I was reading some of the comments on YouTube because we uploaded a snippet on YouTube earlier, and this 11-year-old boy, if I could go back and read it, I would. He said, I love to read. I don't know you, but I'm going to ask my mom to get the book. That blessed my heart to think that an 11-year-old that doesn't even know me would like to read the book. I shared this before. I started reading early in my life. My mother was an avid reader. I came from good stuff. It took me a while to realize it, but I came from good stuff. My mom used to read to us all the time, and I think for us, one of the scariest things she did, don't shoot me down, she read Revelations. That stopped us from doing a lot of things. It stops me today. And I'm not trying to bring the church in here, but I'm just showing how smart that lady was. It was nine of us, and we didn't have a lot of money. She made a scoot car for us. We were unusual. It was nine of us. It was nine children. But anyway, I just said that to say when I read that young man's comments, it was like, it's worth it. If just one person. Before we get started, I'd like to thank some persons. My husband of 43 years, my kids, you guys all know I have five kids, 29 grandkids, my friends, the community that have poured into me just these last several days with the rebirth of Granny's Old Hands. Just tremendous support. I say to whoever's listening, whatever you want to do, get the courage and ask God because this was not on my repertoire. This was not, I was through. I was having a pity party, I told you, and I figured we got to find something else to do. And I've done a lot of things, but I heard him say, get the book out. And so that's what we did. We're going to start reading, but before we start, I need some help. Help. I'm 71 years old, still got Granny's hands, and so I'd like to go. It's my extra help. We're only gonna read a little bit, and if this works out, okay. One more thing, Celeste, slow down. Remember to hit the subscribe button, please, and share. And if you do this, it allows YouTube to see that, oh, they may go somewhere with this. So please don't forget to do that. Uh, Here we go. And I'll try not to look down as much. I'll try to look directly into the camera and not go so fast, but I'm excited. Can you guys tell how excited I am? Here we go. Chapter 1, Grandson's Revelation. Dang, Granny, your hands are old. And those were his exact words to me to the letter. Talk about a person forgetting his or her history. This small chap of mine, my grandson, Laquan Alexander Smith, who I just happened to have the privilege 10 days ago to join in marriage with his bride. Oh my God, talk about a revelation. He asked me, and I'm thinking, okay, Lord, you got to help me with this. But he's in Italy now as we speak on his honeymoon. And I was just, it's one of those things in life that you don't even think about getting the opportunity to do. But he trusted me enough uh, to join him in marriage with his bride. Anyway, um, this small chap of mine had no knowledge about how I drove for 16 hours through unfamiliar territory with his uncle, my son, Michael D. Starks, who at the time was only 11 years old, to witness his birth. But how could he? The purpose of this all important trip was to provide some extra love and comfort to my daughter, who was set to deliver this little blessing. I shall never forget how much courage I had to muster up for this endeavor. I was the only driver for this trip, and I was quite fearful. Literally, I was so scared, guys. I had never done anything like this. I had driven to Mississippi before, but I had other drivers in the car. I had driven even to Florida, but I had never done anything of this magnitude by myself. I had budgeted the money out to the last brown penny. Of course, my little soon to be grandson had no idea what I had gone through just to make the trip. He never knew that I had to stop my automobile along Interstate I 75 to catch a nap, only to have the state police inform me of the purpose of that beautiful rest stop located a few miles down the road. I had always heard the stories about the lewd and lascivious behavior occurring along those stops, and I must admit that I was afraid. This granny, with her old hands, was afraid of what I might encounter. My son was my responsibility, and I was not about to put him in a position to see or hear unlawful things that I was not prepared for. State police changed all that. I couldn't stay along the side of the highway. I had been forced to make a decision, and I did. I moved my automobile. The intent was to keep gas in the vehicle and keep moving toward Jacksonville, North Carolina. Many of my immediate family members thought I was a little screwy up in my mind. They thought I had lost my mind, or what little bit I had left. But a granny would go to the ends of the earth, if necessary, to witness the arrival of her first grandchild. This was my mission. My grandson couldn't have known how terrified I was each time I approached the mountains in West Virginia. I really didn't have enough driving experience to tackle something of such magnitude, but I did it anyway. Nor could he have known my heart dropped each time a large semi truck passed, thinking only about it sliding down the access ramp if and when it lost speed or control. And I didn't even know that these ramps existed till I made these trips. And some of you've seen it because you're experienced, and it was like, you gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding. He couldn't have known the feeling of hopelessness. Have you ever felt hopelessness? I did several days ago. Hopelessness. And you would think, you're 71, girl. I mean, why would you feel like that? I don't know about you, grannies, but even sometimes when I lift my hands, I feel hopelessness. And it's until what happens when I lift my hands that changes the circumstances. I experienced, I questioned the wonders and working of God and how good the cool breeze felt as it swept in from the mountains as the night approached us. We were too far from home to turn around, and yet not close enough to feel safe. But long before my grandson met me and had his revelation about my hands, they were in a position of surrender, surrendering to God for his guidance and surrendering to God for his comfort and care and protection. I didn't have enough money budgeted in for a hotel, and keep in mind what the state police told me earlier. I had to trust the Almighty God. As I pulled into what seemed to be a rest area with my own precious son, he trusted me for protection, and I was trusting God for the both of us. We did arrive safely after almost 16 hours between sleeping and driving the distance. I remember that it was the month of March, and what a wonderful time of year to have a new little person in our family. However, that month had always brought such sadness to my family. Both my parents died in March. I expected this new birth to bring with it a different joy. I saw this as redemption, and God would help me find new hope for what had once been such a bitter time. My son and I spent a week loving on my daughter and waiting for this little chap to arrive. We walked, we purchased new items for my grandson's room, cleaned my daughter's house. Don't we do that, grannies? Always found something wrong and an excuse to clean her house at that time. I told stories and employed all the homemade remedies. We walked and we walked and we talked and we talked I had ever heard about that could help my daughter through this labor. We spent our money down to just barely enough for gas to return back to Michigan. Absolutely nothing occurred. Nothing occurred. This little fellow wouldn't move an inch. From the very beginning, my grandson had his own plan. I was scheduled to return back to Michigan because I still had a job, and my employer probably wouldn't have understood any longer purpose for my mission. As difficult as the trip started out to be, I often look back everything my son and I encountered, the long stretch of I-75 south and the unfamiliar highway signs, and now understand how all these played an important, very important part in a person's life when he or she launches toward new adventures. You find strength to trust yourself. I found myself hoping against hope that I would arrive in one piece. I hoped that I could protect my son from the uncertain dangers that the highway most assuredly possessed. And oh, the weathers with this ominous dark night that ushered in the ungodly empty sounds, sounds that made one appreciate their own backyard, that played psychological mind games on me. The other drivers knew nothing regarding my mission. We're going to stop right there because I promised I wouldn't hold you long. I just wanted to whet your appetite and maybe, in the comments, leave me some suggestions. Leave me your thoughts. But I hope I've whet your appetite. I hope you're excited to continue with me. A couple other things I need to say. YouTube is not paying me anything to do this. I get no monies. Everything I got, the backdraft that you see, the lighting that you see, my family helped me get these things. I didn't even know what it entailed when I believe it was God that spoke to me that said, it's time to rebirth Granny's old hands. I don't know who may be listening. I don't know who may even be in a position to shoot me down, but I do know this every single day of my life. I get the opportunity to raise my hands. A lot is going on in our world. Our world is changing, and I don't have the answer, but I know God does. And I know, Granny, if you're out there, young person, if you're out there, whatever you're facing, and in the book, I'll talk to you how I taught my son Michael to raise his hands and surrender. Uh, I've had a good time tonight. I hope you guys will join me again. Remember to hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, and we'll do this again next Monday night on YouTube. Thank you so very much for your kindness. If you don't have the book, it's okay because we're going to read until we get new directions. This has been such a blessing, guys. I pray for every granny, every mother, every young person that may be watching me tonight. Just put your hands in God's hands. Good night, and see you next Monday night. This is Granny saying we can do it, and we will do it. Good night.